Hello everybody, I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's almost noon here, but I still toast my coffee to you. May you have a good day today. So, we have a holiday coming up. The holiday, if you're in the northern hemisphere, is what I would call the early harvest. It's also called Lughnasa. It's also called Lammas. There are some other holidays that are celebrated around this time, but I don't want to quote them wrong, so I'm not going to go into them specifically. But this early harvest is a celebration of the transition from, actually, to celebrate the energy of the height of the summer. Like right now, we're in the very middle of summer. So that's why some people, you'll see the date of this holiday kind of transition between the last day in July to the 2nd or even sometimes the 3rd or 4th of August. It has to do with literally the midpoint between the solstice, solstice and the equinox. And I didn't do that math before I started this video. I just generally celebrate it on the 1st. Just for the sake of ease. So it's typically August 1st or 2nd. If you're in the southern hemisphere, this is the time for Imbolc or midwinter, which is that other half of it. Both of these holidays are considered candle masses, so they're celebrated in part by lighting a candle or a fire of some kind to encourage that transition in that time. Because I'm in the northern hemisphere, we're going to talk about Lammas, or early harvest, or Lughnasa, or whatever you call this holiday. So, the word Lugnasa, which I'm probably saying wrong because it's Celtic and it's got a crazy spelling, but we're going to go with Lugnasa. That's just how I've always learned how to say it. Is the celebration of the death of the god Lu, who sacrifices himself for the grain so that we can then harvest the grain that is full of life and energy. And it is his sacrifice at the end of the season that helps that grain finish its ripening. He gives his energy to that so that we can cut down the grain and so that we can be nourished by that and the cycle can continue. And then he is again reborn later in the season on Yule, winter solstice, when the light starts to return. So this is the moment where so at the solstice is the longest day of the year. The days are really long, but now coming on August 1st, we start to see the decrease in the length of the days. And that's why we consider this the time when the solar deities sacrifice themselves for the energy of the earth. Some traditions will say that this energy is sacrificed, that the god sacrifices himself for the goddess so that she may continue to ripen and grow as the baby is in her belly. And for some, this doesn't actually happen until Samhain, so it just kind of depends on the tradition that you celebrate and how far north that tradition is. A lot of people don't take into consideration because we live in a modern time with a modern era and all of those things and lights and electricity. But for our ancestors, when they were celebrating these things, a big part of that was the length of the day, was when the sun was rising and setting and how long the night and the day were. And so the further north you are, there's less sunlight. The days are getting shorter, faster. So that's why in some traditions you'll see that this is the time and that later is the time in other cultures, just kind of depending. So if you go all the way to like Mexico, where we're really close to the equator, you'll see that that's why that death happens on the last harvest instead of the early harvest. So again, it just kind of depends on where you are on the equator and how your days go. And I would just say connect with your local schedule or the schedule that calls to you most. So if you call to Lu and this is the god that you work with, then now is the time you would honor his sacrifice. So Lu is honored as not only a solar deity, but he is also the god of skills and trade, and he's a master craftsman. And so there's some great stories around there. One of the ways that this time of the year is honored is that you share your crafts with everybody. There is also, this is also a grain holiday. So obviously, seeing as how he sacrifices himself for the grain, other grain deities are honored at this time, not just Lu, but pretty much any of the grain holidays. So what is her name? Ceres, I think. I don't know. Sol, the goddess of the sun and the harvest. What's Persephone? What's her mom's name? Oh, see, now all of their names are just flying out of my brain, but there's a bunch of gods and goddesses that are associated with the harvest. So all of those harvest deities, those crop deities, your deities of the land, those are the ones that we are honoring right now. You can fill a cornucopia at this time if you're harvesting your own. This is the time when we put berries and summer squash and all of those early harvesting things, fruits, stuff like that, into our harvest or into our cornucopia, and then later on through the 3 harvests you'll put different vegetables in them because different things were harvested at different times. So I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow and over the next couple days, so I don't want to just go on forever. I just wanted to kind of talk about why the celebration of death starts in different places. But as this is the early harvest, this is when those early harvest gods have been sacrificed or sacrificed themselves, or we sacrifice something for them. So in some traditions, they will cut the first bit of wheat and they will make a loaf for the gods, and then they'll give that to the gods before they finish their harvest, as we sacrifice for you before we take for ourselves. And really, this is a time of giving thanks. This is a time of honoring all that we have received and putting in that last bit of energy before we really transition into fall. So I hope everybody has some great plans this weekend, and I will talk more about the early harvest and Lammas or Lughnasa or whatever it may be. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the myths from the gods. Who knows? We'll see where it goes. But I hope everybody has a fantastic day, and I will talk to you all soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see those other videos. See you later.